You seem to put a fair amount of credence in the idea of scanning and possibly blocking network traffic as part of the solution to defending ourselves. I think that's one part of your defensive triad, even. And I think you've been unduly influenced by Ed Amoroso, by the way. So there, Ed. In some sense, describing software exploit at the level of packets is kind of like describing the brain at the level of neurons. And we can only really solve this problem, in my view, by building systems that aren't broken. So trying to protect the broken stuff from attack aimed over the network seems to me to be futile. And I'm not sure I buy into the whole network monitoring thing. Plus, it brings up, personal liberty issues.
It only brings up personal liberty issues if, A, the government is doing it.
Right.
And B, the companies that are doing it are not regulated with regard to privacy. Mm-hmm. So Google is reading your email, your Gmail.
Not mine.
You don't have Gmail. I don't have Gmail either. Yeah. That's why. But Google is the price of getting Gmail for free. Google actually reads the words of your email, and then allegedly stores that information so they can tell advertisers about you. Mm-hmm. That bothers me. But in any event, if we had AT&T scanning software that scanned things moving on its backbone, we'd have to have a regulator, and I would want that regulator to be a private company, a third-party audit, that would go in and assure that they were not saving that information for any advertising purposes or anything else, that they really didn't know the content. They were only looking at the ones and zeros for known malware, known attack.
Yeah, it's just so easy to manipulate the bits and change the patterns. I guess, in my view, there is something that Ed and the guys could do, which is watch for big patterns over the network.
Yeah.
Kind of like when everybody gets up and flushes the toilet after MASH or whatever.
They do. The question is, what do they do about it?
Right.
And there are some backbones that don't particularly look for these things.
Yeah.
I think AT&T probably does.
Yeah.
But the question is, what do they do when they see them? And do they have the legal top cover so that they can step in and do something? Mm-hmm. I mean, I think all of these Tier 1 ISPs are afraid that if they step in and stop a certain packet or a certain trend going on, that they could be sued because your email didn't get through.
Right.
And I think we need to give them more. I think they have legal top cover now. By the way, I think their lawyers are just overly cautious about this. But I'm not a lawyer. So if they think they need more legal top cover, let's give it to them.
Interesting. I absolutely agree with you that the rush towards a smart grid electrical infrastructure is rife with security risk. And that from a cyber war perspective, attacking the power system makes all kinds of sense. It's like target one. So why is it that the electric grid regulators, including FERC, don't really seem to understand cyber risk at all?
We have been working on FERC, the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission, for over a decade.
Yeah.
And it's been Chinese water torture. I think slowly we've been dripping and dripping and dripping. Slowly they've gotten the general understanding that they have to do something. Mm-hmm. So they issued regulations finally that they're not great, but they're a beginning. They're a start. Now they have one gaping hole in these regulations. The FERC has no ability to know if anybody's following them or not.
Right.
Okay? So they issue the Con Ed, this regulation, and Con Ed says, okay, I'm certified, I'm doing it. FERC wouldn't know whether or not they were doing it if the lights went out. I mean, FERC has no cyber ability, no audits, and there's no requirement in the regulations that Con Ed gets audited by a third party. Mm-hmm. So FERC is not auditing them, and there's no third party audit. So how the hell do we know whether these regulations are being violated or not?
Exactly. And that's a case where maybe regulation makes sense, because we're always talking about public-private partnership and no regulation, and I know the politics behind all that. But it's there's certain things we've got to protect.
I know the regulation, the word regulation sends most people running out of the room.
It's screaming. Like liberal.
Depends on your hot button, but people don't want regulation until you ask them. The toy that you give your grandson at Christmas, What if it's from China and it's got a lead paint on it and he licks that lead paint off? Mm-hmm. Well, do you want the Food and Drug Administration or the Federal Trade Commission issuing regulations about lead paint on toys? Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. And,
My kid.
And you can go through a whole long list of things where you ask people, do you want this to happen? No. Do you want regulation to stop it? Yes. But somehow, so they like regulation.
Yeah.
But they think they don't like regulation.
That's right.
And somehow when you say, we need new cyber regulations, they'll go, oh, no, big government stealing my emails, like the government wants your emails. What would it do with your email?
Right.
But I think there are some smart regulations that can be done. Now, what do I mean by smart? Where you give me the end state. Don't give me 5 volumes written by a government lawyer.
Yeah.
Give me an end state. What do you want me to do?
What, not how.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. And then you don't have a bunch of government inspectors going around checking, like the guys that were supposed to check on the mine in West Virginia, mm-hmm. right? And the guys that were supposed to check on the oil well in off Louisiana, mm-hmm. and government inspectors. No. You have what we have under some other laws, which is the requirement for third-party audit. Mm-hmm. So under the Sarbanes-Oxley financial thing, you have to have, if you're a publicly traded company, you have to have an audit firm come in every year, and it audits you.
Can you imagine telling the CEOs of the power concerns that they could go to jail? I guess they can already under Sarbanes-Oxley, but their books are not a mess.
Yeah, if they're publicly traded now, they have to be inspected by auditors. And by the way, under Sarbanes-Oxley, one of the things that the auditors have to certify of every publicly traded company every year is that their cybersecurity is adequate.
Yep, I've been involved in those battles in New York, for sure.
So for some companies, including the banks, by the way, getting audited for cybersecurity is a real phenomenon.
Oh, yeah.
So if the banks have to be audited for cybersecurity, why not the electric power companies?
Mm-hmm. Point taken. Personal freedom and liberty are clearly important to you. How do you balance cybersecurity and individual liberty, avoiding kind of a cyber nanny state or big brother, while also actually addressing cyber risk?
I think it's vitally important that we build up trust between the government and the people. We don't have trust right now. Mm-hmm. We have to build up trust. We had warrantless wiretapping by NSA in the United States.
Yep.
Now, let's just say it. We had warrantless wiretapping in the United States by NSA. Mm-hmm. I love the guys at NSA, but
they shouldn't have done that.
They shouldn't have done that.
Right.
And that's a blot on their record. And they lost a lot of trust by doing that. Mm-hmm. So how do we handle this? I think we need a very robust commission, ongoing commission of trustworthy people. Mm-hmm. People, when you see that name, that woman's on that commission, well, I trust her. It's just automatic. People with that kind of reputation. Mm-hmm. That is got subpoena power, got a staff of experts, and is independent, and issues public reports, and goes around checking on whether the government is getting into things it shouldn't be getting into in terms of privacy.
Kind of a personal liberty or civil liberties commission.
Right. Now, there is one.
I know. I've met the guys. I did a panel at RSA, and it was a lot of talk.
They're pathetic.
Yeah.
They've never done anything that I'm aware of. And nobody even knows they exist, let alone the people who are on it. Mm-hmm. So let's get rid of that one. And let's create one with a lot of power. And let's have a law that creates it, gives it subpoena power, gives it independence. Let's have it issue annual reports and special reports when necessary. And let's have it go around and protect our privacy rights and our civil liberties.